Now Earth was showing something more important: what humanity could build. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning at exactly 9:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Minho was drinking his third cup of coffee when every screen in the United Nations Communications Center lit up at once. The sudden brightness made him spill hot liquid on his desk. He grabbed a tissue and wiped quickly, but his eyes never left the main display. The signal was strong. Too strong. It cut through every frequency Earth used for communication. Radio, television, internet, satellite feeds, even the old emergency broadcast systems that nobody thought worked anymore. Everything carried the same message now. Minho felt his heart beat faster in his chest. The image that appeared was not human. The being on the screen had silver skin that seemed to shimmer under bright lights. Its eyes were completely black, like two pieces of polished stone. The creature wore robes that looked expensive, covered in symbols Minho did not recognize. When it spoke, the words came in perfect English, though its mouth moved differently than a human mouth would. "People of Earth," the being said. Its voice was cold and clear. "I am Ambassador Talvarix of the Galactic Council. We bring greetings from the civilized galaxy. You are no longer alone in the universe. This should make you happy." Minho reached for his phone to call his supervisor, but the device would not work. Nothing would work except the screen showing this message. All around him, other workers stood frozen, staring at their monitors. Someone dropped a mug. It shattered on the floor, but nobody looked down. "For 10,000 years, Talvarix continued, the Galactic Council has maintained peace across 1 million star systems. We protect the weak. We stop wars before they begin. We bring order to chaos. Under our guidance, species prosper and grow. They live in safety and comfort." The ambassador paused. A thin smile appeared on its face, but the expression did not reach those black eyes. Minho felt cold despite the warm office air. "This protection, however, is not free," Talvarix said. "Every species under our care must pay tribute. This is how civilization works. The strong protect the weak, and the weak show gratitude through contribution. It is simple, it is fair. It is the way things have always been." The screen changed. Now it showed long lists of items, numbers, and strange words. Minho leaned forward, trying to read everything quickly. His training as a diplomat helped him understand what he was seeing, and what he understood made his stomach feel sick. "Earth will provide the following tribute annually," Talvarix explained. 70% of all mined metals, 40% of all agricultural production, 30% of all manufactured goods. Additionally, you will share all scientific knowledge and technological advancement with the Council immediately upon discovery. You will also provide soldiers for our peacekeeping forces, 10 million humans each year selected by lottery. Around the office, people began to whisper. The whispers grew louder. Someone shouted something angry. Another person started crying. Minho felt his hand shake as he gripped the edge of his desk. "These terms are not negotiable," the ambassador said firmly. "They are the same terms we have offered to every species we have welcomed into the galactic community. Some species tried to refuse in the past. They learned that refusing the Council's protection is the same as choosing the Council's wrath. Those species no longer exist to tell their stories." The screen changed again. Now it showed images of planets. Beautiful planets with blue oceans and green forests. Then the images changed. The same planets appeared again, but now they were gray and dead. Nothing lived on them anymore. Cities were ruins. Oceans were gone. The worlds looked like giant rocks floating in space, empty and cold. "You have 7 days to prepare your first tribute shipment," Talvarix said. "We will send coordinates for delivery. Our fleet waits at the edge of your solar system. They will collect what is owed. If you comply, Earth will prosper under our protection. If you refuse, Earth will serve as an example to others who might consider defiance. Choose wisely, humans. Choose quickly." The screens went dark. All at once, every monitor in the building returned to normal. Phones started ringing. Internet connections restored. It was like someone had flipped a switch. But everyone in the office remained still and quiet, processing what they had just witnessed. Minho finally stood up. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to walk toward the communications director's office. Other staff members were doing the same thing, all moving like people in a dream. Nobody spoke. What was there to say? Director Park was already on her phone when Minho entered. She was speaking rapidly in Korean to someone important, probably the president, maybe the Secretary General. Her face was pale and her hand trembled slightly as she held the phone. "Yes, the entire planet received it," she said into the phone. Every device. Every screen. Yes, I understand. We are gathering all department heads now. 20 minutes. Yes, sir. She ended the call and looked at Minho and the others gathering in her office. Emergency meeting. Now. Get everyone who works in alien communication protocols, international law, and military liaison. Move fast. Within minutes, the office became a storm of activity. People ran between rooms carrying files and tablets. Printers worked continuously, producing copies of the tribute demands. Translators worked to put the message into every Earth language. The world needed to know what had just happened. Minho pulled up his computer and began drafting a preliminary report. His fingers moved automatically across the keyboard, typing information while his mind raced ahead. 7 days. They had 7 days to respond to a threat from beings who could destroy planets. 7 days to make a choice that would affect every human being alive, and every human being yet to be born. Outside the windows, he could see New York City continuing its normal day. Cars moved through streets. People walked on sidewalks. Nobody out there knew yet what message had just been received. But they would know soon. By tonight, everyone on Earth would know that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors had arrived with demands and threats. Minho saved his document and stood up again. There was work to do. Messages to send. People to inform. 7 days was not much time to save the world. The emergency summit began at midnight. Leaders from every nation gathered in the secure conference room, deep beneath the United Nations building. Some attended in person. Others appeared on large screens mounted along the walls. President Ji-won of the Korean Federation sat at the head of the long table, her face calm but her eyes sharp and alert. We have all seen the message, Ji-won began, without any greeting or small talk. We have all read the tribute demands. We have 5 days remaining to make our decision. I want to hear from everyone. Science Division first. Dr. Yoonji, please share your analysis. Yoonji stood up, holding a tablet with both hands. She was young for such an important position, but her work in astrophysics had earned her a seat at this table. She touched her screen and data appeared on the monitors around the room. The fleet at the edge of our solar system contains approximately 300 ships, Yoonji said. Her voice was steady, but Minho, sitting 3 seats away, could see her knuckles were white from gripping the tablet too hard. We have been observing them with every telescope available. Their vessels are large, much larger than anything we have built. The smallest ship in their fleet is twice the size of our biggest space station. She swiped to another image. This one showed a comparison between human spacecraft and the alien vessels. The difference was enormous. Human ships looked like toys next to the Council's fleet. Their technology appears to be hundreds of years ahead of ours, Yoonji continued. Maybe thousands of years. We detected energy readings we cannot fully explain. Their weapons systems, based on what we can measure from this distance, could destroy our entire planet in minutes, maybe faster. Silence filled the room. People shifted in their seats. Someone coughed nervously. What about our defenses? Asked General Hyun-woo, the head of the Earth Defense Force. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years as a combat soldier. What if we fight? Yoonji looked at him directly. We would lose, General. Quickly and completely. Our weapons are designed to fight other humans. We have nothing that could damage ships of that size and power. Even if we used every nuclear weapon in our arsenal at once, I doubt we would destroy more than a few of their vessels. They would still have nearly 300 ships left to retaliate. Hyun-woo's jaw tightened, but he nodded slowly. He understood numbers. He understood odds. He had fought in wars before and knew when a battle could not be won through force alone. So we have no military option, said the Prime Minister of the European Union. She spoke through her screen connection, her image slightly pixelated. Then we must negotiate. We must find terms we can accept. Perhaps we can offer less tribute in exchange for something valuable from them. Technology, medicine, knowledge. They said the terms were not negotiable, Minho reminded the room. All eyes turned to him. He felt his face grow warm but forced himself to continue. Ambassador Talvarix was very clear. These are the same terms they have offered every species. They do not bargain. They dictate. President Ji-won leaned back in her chair, studying the faces around the table. What if we simply refuse? What if we say no and prepare for the consequences? Then they destroy us, said the Chancellor of the African Coalition. He looked tired, like he had not slept since the message arrived. They showed us images of dead worlds. They were not making empty threats. They have done this before. They will do it again. But maybe those worlds fought back, Hyunwoo said suddenly. He stood up, placing his hands flat on the table. Maybe those species refused and then attacked the Council fleet. Maybe they gave the Council no choice but to destroy them. What if we refuse but do not attack? What if we simply say no and wait? Wait for what? Someone asked. Wait to see if they are bluffing. Hyunwoo replied. Think about it. If the Council truly had to destroy every species that refused their demands, how many worlds would they have eliminated? Hundreds? Thousands? That requires enormous resources. Enormous effort. It would create fear, yes, but also hatred. Every surviving species would hate them. They would face constant rebellion and resistance. Yoonji tilted her head considering this. You think they use the threat of destruction to make species comply without actually having to destroy them? It is possible, Hyunwoo said. It is cheaper to scare someone into obedience than to kill them. Dead species pay no tribute. They provide no soldiers. They give no resources. The Council gains nothing from destroying worlds except fear from other worlds. But we cannot gamble billions of human lives on a possibility, Ji-won said firmly. If you are wrong, General, every man, woman, and child on Earth dies. Can you accept that responsibility? Hyunwoo met her eyes. Can you accept the responsibility of condemning every future generation to slavery? If we pay this tribute, we will never stop paying. Our children will pay. Their children will pay. We will become a servant species, existing only to feed the Council's power. Is that better than death? The room erupted in argument. Voices rose and overlapped. Some leaders agreed with Hyunwoo. Others called him reckless and dangerous. A few remained quiet, thinking deeply about both options. Minho listened to everything, taking notes on his tablet, recording arguments for and against compliance. President Ji-won raised her hand. Slowly, the room quieted again. We are not deciding tonight, she said. We still have 5 days. I want every option explored. Every possibility examined. Dr. Yoonji, I need your team to study that fleet more closely, find any weakness, any vulnerability. General Hyunwoo, prepare defensive strategies. Even if our chances are small, we should know how to fight if we must. She turned to Minho. Diplomat Minho, you will draft our official response. Prepare 2 versions, one that accepts their terms, one that refuses. Make both responses clear and professional. We will decide which one to send when we understand our situation better. Minho nodded, though his heart sank at the assignment. Writing words that might doom humanity or enslave it forever was not a task he wanted. But someone had to do it. Someone had to put Earth's choice into language the galaxy would understand. The meeting continued for 4 more hours. They discussed logistics. They talked about how to distribute resources if they paid the tribute. They considered evacuation plans if they refused and faced destruction. Every scenario was terrible in its own way. Every choice led to pain and loss. When the meeting finally ended, people left slowly, exhausted and worried. Minho gathered his notes and walked toward the exit. Ji-won caught his arm gently as he passed her chair. This is an impossible task I have given you, she said quietly. I am sorry. Someone must do it, Minho replied. Yes, Ji-won agreed. But that does not make it easier. Write from your heart, Minho. Write what you truly believe Earth should say to these beings. Let your words carry our spirit, whatever we decide that spirit should be. Minho bowed slightly and left the conference room. The hallways were empty at this late hour. His footsteps echoed off the walls as he walked to his office. He sat down at his desk, opened his computer, and stared at the blank document on his screen. 2 versions. One accepting slavery, one choosing possible death, he began to type. The 7th day arrived with gray clouds covering the sky over New York. Minho had not slept properly in 5 days. His office was filled with empty coffee cups and crumpled papers. He had written both responses as President Ji-won requested. The acceptance letter was 3 pages long, carefully worded to maintain some dignity while agreeing to the Council's demands. The refusal letter was also 3 pages explaining Earth's position and requesting peaceful dialogue, but neither response sat right in his chest. Both felt wrong somehow. Too long, too complicated, too much like begging. On his computer screen, he watched news feeds from around the world. Millions of people filled the streets of every major city. Some carried signs demanding that Earth fight back. Others held signs begging for peace and survival. Religious leaders prayed. Children cried. Parents held them close. The whole planet held its breath, waiting to learn its fate. At noon, the final summit meeting began. This time only the most senior leaders attended. President Ji-won sat in her usual place. General Hyun-woo sat to her right. Dr. Yoonji sat to her left. Minho was there too, holding printed copies of both response letters. What did your additional observations reveal? Ji-won asked Yoonji. The scientist pulled up new images on the main screen. The fleet has moved closer. They are now just beyond Mars' orbit. This suggests they are preparing to collect the tribute as promised. Or preparing to attack if we refuse. Any weaknesses discovered? Yoonji shook her head. None we can exploit. Their shields appear impenetrable to our weapons. We did notice one interesting detail, however. The fleet maintains perfect formation. They have not sent any scouts toward Earth. They have not moved to surround our planet. They simply wait in a straight line exactly where they stopped 6 days ago. What does that mean? Ji-won asked. Hyun-woo leaned forward. It means they are confident. Absolutely confident. They believe we will comply without resistance. They have done this so many times before that they follow a standard procedure. Send the message. Wait 7 days. Collect the tribute. They do not even consider the possibility that we might refuse. Or, said another general, it means they are so powerful that positioning does not matter. They can destroy us from any location. Perhaps both things are true, Ji-won said quietly. She turned to Minho. Show us what you have written. Minho handed out copies of both letters. The room fell silent as everyone read. Minutes passed. Finally, Ji-won set both papers down on the table in front of her. These are well written, she said, professional and clear. But I notice you have not recommended which one we should send. I cannot make that choice, Madam President, Minho replied. It is too large for one person. It must be decided by all of us together. Ji-won looked around the table. Then let us decide. Who believes we should accept their terms? 5 hands raised slowly, 5 out of 12 people in the room. Who believes we should refuse? 4 hands went up. Hyun-woo's hand was among them. 3 have not voted, Ji-won observed. She looked at Minho. You are one of them. What do you believe? Minho felt everyone's eyes on him. His mouth went dry. He thought about everything he had witnessed over the past week. The fear in people's faces, the anger in their voices, the hope in their prayers. He thought about his own parents, his sister, his friends. He thought about every human being alive and every human being yet to be born. I believe, Minho said slowly, that both of these letters are wrong. Surprised expressions appeared around the table. Ji-won raised one eyebrow. Explain. The acceptance letter makes us sound grateful for the opportunity to be slaves, Minho said. The refusal letter makes us sound like we are asking permission to remain free. Both approaches assume the Council has legitimate authority over Earth. Both approaches accept their premise that we must choose between their protection or their wrath. What would you suggest instead? Hyun-woo asked. There was interest in his voice. Minho reached into his pocket and pulled out a single piece of paper. He had written only one word on it in large, clear letters. He placed it on the table where everyone could see. This, he said simply. Ji-won picked up the paper and read the single word aloud. No, just no? Someone asked. Nothing else? Nothing else, Minho confirmed. No explanation, no justification, no negotiation. Just a clear, simple refusal. We do not accept their authority. We do not acknowledge their right to make demands. We simply say no and let them decide how to respond. That is insanely dangerous, said one of the ministers who had voted for acceptance. They will see it as disrespect, as arrogance. They will attack immediately. They will attack anyway if we refuse, Hyun-woo said. Whether we refuse politely or refuse simply makes no difference to the outcome. But it makes a difference to us. It makes a difference to who we are as a species. Yoonji spoke up unexpectedly. From a strategic standpoint, a short response gives them less information. My long explanations tell them we are afraid. They tell them we are trying to justify ourselves. A single word tells them nothing except our decision. The room fell into discussion. Arguments went back and forth. Voices rose and fell. Minho sat quietly watching and listening. He had said what he believed. The rest was up to the leaders. President Ji-won finally stood up. Everyone stopped talking. We will vote one final time, she announced. Not on acceptance or refusal. We have already established that this room is divided on that question. Instead, we will vote on whether our response should be long or short. Should we send one of Minho's detailed letters, or should we send his single word? It was a clever approach. It allowed people to vote without directly choosing between slavery and potential death. Hands went up quickly this time. 10 people voted for the short response. Only 2 preferred the longer letters. Then we are decided, Jiwon said. She looked at Minho. Prepare the transmission, one word. Send it on all frequencies just as they sent their message to us. Make sure every ship in their fleet receives it. Make sure it goes out across the entire galaxy. If we are going to refuse the Galactic Council, let everyone know we did it clearly and without apology. Minho bowed and left the conference room. His hands shook slightly as he walked to the communications center. This was really happening. Earth was about to tell the most powerful force in the galaxy that it would not obey. The communications center was busy with technicians preparing the broadcast equipment. Minho sat down at the main control station. He typed the single word into the transmission program. He set it to broadcast on every possible frequency: radio, laser, quantum, every method humans knew for sending messages through space. His finger hovered over the send button. This was the moment. After this, there was no going back. Earth would have spoken. The galaxy would hear. He pressed the button. The word went out across space at the speed of light. It reached the Council fleet in minutes. It spread beyond them, traveling to distant stars and alien worlds. Everywhere beings listened to communications, they would hear Earth's response. One word, simple and clear, impossible to misunderstand. No. The Council chamber on the flagship was built from materials that did not exist in Earth's solar system. Walls glowed with soft light. The floor reflected everything perfectly like still water. Ambassador Talveric stood at the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing data from hundreds of worlds. The human response appeared on every screen at once. Just one word. Talveric stared at it for several seconds without moving. His silver skin seemed to lose some of its shimmer. His black eyes grew wider. No, he whispered. Then louder. No? They said no. Other council members rushed into the chamber. They had all received the transmission. They all wore expressions of shock and confusion. This must be an error, said Council Member Draxus, a being that looked like it was made from blue crystal. Perhaps the message was corrupted during transmission. Perhaps they meant to send more, but the signal was interrupted. The signal was not interrupted, said the communications officer, a small creature with too many eyes. The transmission was clear and complete. They sent exactly what they intended to send. One word. No. Talverix felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Real. Cold fear that made his hands tremble slightly. In 10,000 years, he said slowly, no species has ever refused the Council's protection. Not one. Every civilization we contacted understood the wisdom of compliance. Every world accepted our terms. This is not possible. But it has happened, Draxus said. The question now is what we do about it. We destroy them, another council member said quickly. We make an example of Earth as we promised. We show the galaxy what happens to species who defy the council. Do we? Telverix asked. The question made everyone stop and look at him. Do we really destroy them? Of course, Draxus said, though he sounded uncertain. We must. We threaten destruction. If we do not follow through, our threats become meaningless. Every species in the galaxy will stop paying tribute. Our entire system will collapse. Talverix walked to one of the large displays and changed the image. Now it showed historical records, thousands of species, thousands of worlds, all paying tribute to the Council. Look at this data carefully, Talverix said. Every single one of these species accepted our terms within the 7-day period. Most accepted within 3 days. Some accepted within hours. Not one of them needed to be destroyed. Not one required military action. Do you understand what this means? The other council members looked at each other nervously. It means, Talverix continued, that we have never actually destroyed a world for refusing tribute. We have never had to. The images we show of dead planets, those were worlds destroyed by natural disasters or wars between primitive species before we arrived. We simply claimed credit for their destruction to make our threats more convincing. Shocked silence filled the chamber. You are saying we have been bluffing for 10,000 years? Draxus asked quietly. Yes, Talverix admitted. And it has worked perfectly. Until now. On Earth, in a secret facility deep underground, Soyeon sat surrounded by computers and monitoring equipment. She was the head of Earth's intelligence division, responsible for intercepting and analyzing alien communications. She had been listening to the Council's transmissions constantly since their fleet arrived. Now she heard something interesting. The Council used encrypted communications, but human computers had been working on breaking those encryptions for 6 days. The code was complex but not impossible. Piece by piece, Soyeon's team had decoded enough to understand basic conversations. What she heard now made her sit up straight in her chair. "Get me President Ji-won immediately," she said to her assistant. "Use the emergency line. This cannot wait." Within minutes, Ji-won's face appeared on Soyeon's screen. The president looked tired but alert. "What have you found?" "The council is panicking," Soyeon reported. "We broke enough of their encryption to understand their internal communications. Madam President, they have never destroyed a world before. All their threats are based on lies. They show images of dead planets they found and claim they destroyed them. But it is not true. They have been bluffing for thousands of years." Ji-won leaned closer to her screen. "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be with partial decryption," Soyeon replied. "But their conversation patterns match psychological profiles of beings experiencing fear and uncertainty. They are not acting like conquerors preparing for battle. They are acting like politicians worried about maintaining an illusion." "If this is true," Ji-won said slowly, "then our refusal has created a crisis for them. If they do not destroy us, other species will learn that council threats are empty. But if they do destroy us, then they must actually become the monsters they have been pretending to be," Soyeon finished. "They would have to commit real genocide to maintain their false reputation. That changes everything about who they are and how the galaxy sees them." Ji-won was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Continue monitoring their communications. I need to know everything they say and do. Every doubt, every fear, every plan. Can you do that?" "We are working constantly to improve the decryption," Soyeon said. "Give us another day and we should understand most of their communications clearly." "You have 6 hours," Ji-won said. "That fleet will make its decision soon. We need to know what they are planning before they act." The screen went dark. Soyeon turned to her team. "You heard the president. We have 6 hours to break the rest of this code. Stop taking breaks. Stop sleeping. Bring in everyone we have. This is the most important work we will ever do." Her team moved with new urgency. Computers processed data faster. Mathematicians worked on decryption algorithms with desperate speed. Linguists analyzed alien grammar patterns to fill in gaps where the code remained unbroken. 3 hours later, they succeeded. The encryption broke completely. Now Earth could hear everything the Council said to each other, and what Earth heard made everything change. The Council members were arguing. Some wanted to attack Earth immediately. Others wanted to leave and hope everyone forgot about the humans. A few suggested trying to negotiate better terms, offering something valuable in exchange for Earth's compliance. But the loudest voice belonged to Talvarix. And what he said made Soyeon smile for the first time in a week. "We cannot destroy Earth," the ambassador insisted. "If we do, we become exactly what we have pretended to be. We become killers. We become tyrants. More importantly, we will face resistance from every world we control. Do you understand? They do not fight us because they believe we are too powerful to defeat. But if we actually wage war against Earth, we will show our true military capacity, and some species will realize they can fight back successfully. So what do? Draxus asked. "We cannot ignore this refusal. We leave," Talvarix said. "We leave the system and we never speak of Earth again. We will tell other species that humans are dangerous and unpredictable, not worth the effort of conquest. We will make it seem like we chose to avoid them, rather than admit they refused us." "But what about all the tribute we expected from them?" another council member asked. "We have tribute from 1,000,000 other worlds," Talvarix replied. "We do not need Earth's resources. We need to preserve the system that has given us power for 10,000 years. Earth is not worth risking everything we have built." Soyeon recorded everything and sent it directly to President Ji-won. Then she sent copies to General Hyun-woo, Dr. Eunji, and Diplomat Minho. Everyone needed to know what was happening. Earth had called the Council's bluff, and the Council had blinked first. President Ji-won stood in the United Nations Assembly Hall, facing representatives from every nation on Earth. Behind her, enormous screens showed the Council's fleet. The alien ships had not moved closer. They had not moved at all. They simply remained in their perfect formation beyond Mars, waiting for something that would never come. Citizens of Earth, Jiwan began. Her voice was broadcast across the entire planet. Every television, every radio, every device carried her words. 3 hours ago, our intelligence division decoded the Galactic Council's internal communications. What we learned changes everything we thought we knew about our situation. She paused, letting the tension build. In the assembly hall, people leaned forward in their seats. Around the world, billions stopped what they were doing to listen. The Council has been lying, Jiwan said clearly. For 10,000 years, they have maintained their power through deception. The dead worlds they showed us in their message were not destroyed by the Council. Those planets died from natural disasters or primitive wars. The Council simply claimed credit to make their threats more frightening. In truth, they have never destroyed a species for refusing tribute. They have never had to, because no species has refused until now. Gasps and shouts filled the assembly hall. Jiwan raised her hand for silence. Our single-word response created a crisis for them, she continued. They are now debating what to do. Some want to leave our solar system quietly and never mention us again. Others want to negotiate. None of them want to actually fight us. Not because we are strong enough to defeat them, but because fighting would expose their true military capacity to the rest of the galaxy. Other enslaved species would realize the Council's threats are empty. Rebellion would spread across 1 million worlds. On the screens behind her, new images appeared. These were recordings of the Council's debates translated into Earth languages. People watched Talverics argue with other Council members. They heard the fear in alien voices. They saw the uncertainty in their movements. We took a terrible risk, Jiwan admitted. We gambled with human survival based on instinct and analysis. We believed the Council's threats were too perfect, too consistent, too similar across thousands of years. We believed that real conquerors would show more variety in their approaches, and we were right. In his office, Minho watched the broadcast with tears in his eyes. His simple response, just one word, had changed everything. He thought about the hours he spent writing those long, detailed letters. All that effort, all those careful words would have been wrong. Sometimes the simplest statement carried the most power. General Hunwoo sat in the Defense Command Center, watching radar displays track the Council fleet. His staff worked quietly around him, monitoring every ship for signs of movement. But the alien vessels remained still. They were not preparing for attack. They were not advancing toward Earth. They were simply sitting in space, trying to decide what to do about a species that had refused to be afraid. Dr. Yunji was in her laboratory, analyzing new data from the alien ships. Now that the immediate threat had passed, she could focus on learning rather than just surviving. The Council's technology was still far ahead of human science, but maybe humans could study it peacefully now instead of facing it as weapons. Madam President, a voice called from the assembly floor. It was the ambassador from the African Coalition. What happens next? Will the Council leave? Will they accept our refusal? We do not know yet, Jiwan answered honestly. Their debate continues. But I want to share one more piece of information with you, and with the entire galaxy. She pressed a button on her podium. The screens changed again. Now they showed a new message being broadcast from Earth. Not just to the Council fleet, but to every star system within range of human transmitters. The message was simple, written in multiple languages and mathematical formats so any species could understand it. The message said, "The Galactic Council's threats are empty. They have never destroyed a species for refusing tribute. They rule through fear and lies. We are humans of Earth. We said no to their demands. We still exist. If you want to be free, you can refuse them too. You do not have to be afraid anymore." The assembly hall erupted in noise. Some people cheered. Others shouted questions. A few looked terrified at the implications. Jiwan waited for quiet again. This is a risk, she admitted. A huge risk. If we are wrong, if the Council does decide to destroy us to maintain their reputation, then we die. But if we are right, we will have started something that cannot be stopped. We will have given hope to species who have been enslaved for thousands of years. We will have shown the galaxy that the Council's emperor has no clothes. In the darkness of space on the Council's flagship, Ambassador Talverics watched Earth's new message spread across the galaxy. His hands shook, His silver skin turned almost white with shock. "They are telling everyone," he whispered. "They are revealing the truth to the entire galaxy." Draxus stood beside him, staring at the screens. "What do we do?" "Nothing," Talveric said quietly. "There is nothing we can do. If we destroy Earth now, we prove they were right to fear us, but also prove we can be fought. If we leave them alone, we prove their message is true and our threats are empty. Either way, the system we built over 10,000 years ends today." As they watched, new signals began appearing from across the galaxy. Other species had heard Earth's message. Some sent messages of support. Others asked questions. A few, the bravest ones, sent their own refusals to pay tribute. On a planet called Kelvor Prime, a species of green-skinned beings gathered in their central city. They had paid tribute to the Council for 300 years. Their leader, an elderly female named Kessa, read Earth's message aloud to her people. "They said no," Kessa told the crowd. "One species younger than us with less technology than us simply said no. And they lived. The Council did not destroy them. What should we do?" Someone called from the crowd. Kessa smiled for the first time in decades. "We say no too." On a water world called Thaxis, beings that looked like intelligent fish swam through their underwater cities, sharing Earth's message through sound waves and light patterns. Their council representatives prepared their own refusal. On a desert world called Corvin, crystalline beings who communicated through electromagnetic pulses decided they would no longer send their rare minerals to the Council. They would keep their resources for themselves. Across the galaxy, on worlds so distant that light from their stars had not yet reached Earth, species were making the same choice. They were refusing. They were saying no. They were choosing freedom over the false security of Council protection. Within 1 week, 3,000 worlds had stopped paying tribute. Within 2 weeks, 10,000 worlds joined the rebellion. Within a month, the Galactic Council's tribute system collapsed completely. The Council fleet left Earth's solar system without firing a single shot. They went home to their council chambers and argued about how to rebuild their power. But power built on lies and fear is difficult to restore once the truth is known. On Earth, President G1 addressed her world one final time that month. "We did not intend to start a galactic revolution," she said. "We only wanted to remain free. But sometimes one act of courage inspires others to find their own courage. Sometimes one word spoken at the right moment changes everything." She looked directly into the camera, knowing her words would spread across the planet and beyond. "We said no to tyranny. We said no to slavery. We said no to fear. And the galaxy heard us. Today, humanity is no longer alone. We have allies now, thousands of species who made the same choice we made. Together we will build something new. Not an empire ruled by threats, not a council maintained by lies, but a true community of free worlds working together by choice rather than compulsion." In his small office at the United Nations, Minho turned off his screen and leaned back in his chair. He thought about the word he had written on that single piece of paper. Such a small word. Just 2 letters. But those 2 letters had changed the galaxy forever. Sometimes, he realized, the most powerful response is the simplest one. Sometimes all you need to say is no, and mean it.